the buzz that I was getting traveling around Israel, and everywhere we went, there were IDF soldiers. Everywhere. Like Nova, there's IDF soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
In Jerusalem, in the Old City, there's IDF soldiers. You go to this important historical site, there's IDF soldiers because they're all being trained. But the vibe, the feel we were getting from them is we're going in someplace very big, in a very big way, very soon.
But
So
maybe-
it could be Lebanon.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm thinking. It could be Lebanon because of the rearming that we've heard about that is apparently going faster than we thought. Shalom, everybody. Well, about a week has gone by, and I am bringing my my favorite guest back on because there's so much to talk about in the U.S., in the Middle East, and we just really we can't keep up. We can't keep up, but I have concerns, and I want to bring that topic at the forefront today. You know, I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and I talked about, and I know I'm going to get some criticism for that, but I wanted to talk about Trump's Messiah syndrome, because I think that Donald Trump right now is making some poor decisions, and this could cost us a lot, not just us, but also in the Middle East and the global economy. So. Of course, my guest that I discussed this with is my good friend, John Holler, who is every single time, and I just brought him on the screen, every single time he brings up information that I'm not aware of, and I learn something. John, I learn from you every single time.
That's amazing.
I know. It's a compliment.
It either says a lot about me or a little about you.
Who knows? Who knows?
I'm going to go with the former.
Right. It's good to have you back, and so let me make sure I keep an eye on the clock. Okay. So now last time you and I talked officially online, it was about a week ago, and maybe a little more depending on when this will get posted. But it's hard to keep up. But I've been noticing some decisions that Donald Trump has made, and I wanted to ask your opinion on that. He met just a few days ago. He invited what somebody that people call an ex-terrorist. But with terrorists, I almost feel like saying, like, it's like the Marines. You're never an ex-Marine. You're at the very best an inactive or retired. But ex-terrorist that used to be, had a big price on his head, part of Al-Qaeda, al-Jolani from Syria, who now is the head of Syria, so to speak, invited him at the White House. And then Tuesday, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is coming to the White House again to discuss the possible sale to Saudi Arabia of, I don't know how many, but F-35s, the stealth bombers. What do you make of this?
Okay, well, first of all, with regard to al-Shara, al-Jilani, I don't believe there's been a change in the guy. There's a couple ways of looking at it. That maybe he did change. Another way of looking at it is he's the same that he always was, and he's just practicing the Islamic art of deception. I think that's most likely. And then some people think he's an agent of the United States government. That's why he's getting so much traction with everybody. But I can say from, a couple of weeks ago, being up on the Syrian border and having a Zoom call with the journalist who was in Sweda. When you're at the Golan, you look out towards Damascus. There's some mountains there just a little bit off to your right. Those are Druze mountains. Those are Druze and Christian villages that are currently under persecution by people associated with the al-Jilani, al-Shara regime. and I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, it's hard for me to explain what the reasoning of the Trump administration is. This Al Shalani guy is not a good guy. You've replaced a corrupt, wicked Assad regime with a Islamist. I don't see that there's a very good trade-off there. And the other thing too is that I was talking to some of the people at the Christian Media Summit in Israel a little less than 2 weeks ago about the fact that Turkey is very much involved in what's going on in Syria. They're using Turkey, and I'm sorry, Turkey is using Syria as a proxy. So last week, when Trump had al-Shara in front of him talking to him, the optics were very bad for the way this was conducted, considering that Trump wants to project the image that he is the most powerful man in the world and the United States is the most powerful country in the world. And I don't think the optics that came out of the meeting in the Oval Office projected that. Al-Shara was given
probably the
way
opposite.
too much. Well, to the Muslim mind, it's very similar to, I mean, well, the other thing you need to remember too is in that meeting with Trump, the foreign minister from Turkey was there, and he's an Islamist also. He's Muslim Brotherhood. And he may be the one who replaces Erdogan as Erdogan sort of ages off the scene, if there's time for that, before the Lord returns.
Right.
Erdogan, I've said this many times, Erdogan and I are 2 days apart in age. And somebody said, well, you seem to be holding up better than he is. And I said, well, when you're repressing your people and oppressing them, that wears on you age-wise. So I haven't been oppressing anybody. But I just didn't like the optics of it. It just doesn't look right. And to them, when you read the Arab press, you read the Syrian press, which I do, look at how important our leader is. He came to talk to the most powerful person in the world. The most powerful person in the world was very nice and accommodating to him.
Yeah.
The same thing happened when Steve Witkoff, in the course of negotiating the ceasefire, and let's dispel the notion that anyone might have, there's no, regardless of what Trump might call it, there's no peace agreement with respect to Gaza. There's no peace agreement. There was an agreement to get the hostages out. And how many 48-hour, 72-hour deadlines, if you don't do this by then, we're going to completely obliterate you.
I know.
How many of those deadlines have come and gone since Trump has been in office?
Nobody's keeping track anymore. It's just like it means nothing.
Right. It's a meaningless thing that happens. So there's that. But when Witkoff went and met with the Hamas leader, he sort of tried to talk to him on a I'm the same as you guy level. I lost a son to a drug overdose. You lost a son in the war, or something like that. And the Hamas people, they will see that as a real capitulation, surrender almost by the Trump administration because of the way the negotiations were.
Yeah.
And I think we shouldn't call them Witkoff. We should call them week off or week one.
Yeah, it is. It is a weakness. I mean, they see it as weakness. I mean, they only understand force as we keep seeing this attempt at negotiating and discussing a compromise like the West does, but it's never going to work. That way, it's never going to work.
I don't even think they have a language for peace agreement or truce or treaty or anything like that that they can use. So it's just not they don't think the way we do, and we need to kind of act so they understand what we're trying to say instead of trying to just talk it through with them. I think it's a big mistake. So you have the Muslim, and then you have how they're going to put this international, what do they call it, ISF, International Stabilization Force.
You mean the base by Gaza? So who's going to build it?
Well, yeah, they're going to rebuild it, but where are they going to rebuild it? Nobody's going to invest in something where Hamas still controls it unless they're complete.
And that's the thing. Hamas is still there. Get rid of Hamas. I mean, why is it so complicated to understand that Hamas, as long as Hamas, I mean, I know it sounds very, very mean and very destructive, but the reality is, as long as Hamas has a foothold in Gaza Strip or anywhere else, nothing is going to change. It's a matter of them rearming, reorganizing, restructuring, and being patient, as we know they have that ability to be patient and wait for the right moment. But nothing is going to change. It's going to be based on the same ideology. How many times do we have to say that?
And then you're exactly right. And then with respect to Gaza, the proposals that are being circulated at the UN Security Council level, the US recently came out with their proposal that they signed on to that talked eventually. Now, they could say, well, it's way in the future, but it talked about we're going to have work towards a Palestinian state. And, you're over there in Israel more than I am. It's not going to work. It's
They
just,
had a state for 20 years. Gaza Strip, in essence, was a microcosm of a Palestinian state. And look what happened. What do you think is going to
well,
happen?
Jordan controlled the area, everybody calls the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, for 20 years, from 1948 to the 6 Day War. And guess what? Did anything happen there? They still have refugee camps there. They still have refugee camps in Jordan. Jordan never brought them into the government. The Jordanian government was a foreign king imported into Jordan from Saudi Arabia to rule that area. And and even though, the country of Jordan is 80%, 75, 80, 90%, whatever the number is, quote, Palestinian Arab, they don't have full rights in Jordan. They don't have the Palestinian Arabs don't have full rights in Lebanon, in Syria. It's a complete fabrication. So they did have a state, though, in Gaza. It was what they wanted. It was completely Jew free. In 2005, in fact, when I was at Near Oz a week ago, maybe two, I don't know, whenever I was at Near Oz, 2 weeks ago now, to tour that site, one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on October 7th, I noticed a sign up there, and I don't remember if I talked with you about this or not. There was a sign on one of the buildings that said, it was a road sign, Gush Katif, with an arrow pointing towards Gaza. And that sign, I said, when I talked to the people at the media summit, I said, that sign told you everything you need to know about what happened there, because in 2005, Gush Katif was a Jewish settlement within Gaza. And under pressure from the Bush-Cheney...
And it was flourishing.
They had high-tech greenhouses. Yep. It was a flourishing agricultural business area.
Yeah. I remember.
And the Bush-Cheney administration, believing they could make some kind of peace and get things on the right track, they forced Ariel Sharon to remove every Jew living and dead. They dug up the dead bodies of every Jew that they knew where was buried, and they took them out of Gaza. And Gaza became what the Palestinian Arabs have told us they wanted, Jew-free. And what happened? October 7th happened. And I talked to him. I think he was the first responder at Nova that day of October 7th. And he's describing some of the horrific things that he saw. But I sort of couched a question to him, like, if Gush Katif had not been evacuated in 2005 under pressure from the U.S. administration, would October 7th, maybe it wouldn't have happened? He said, no, it would not have happened. And so that was sort of a big domino falling, and what led to October 7th, 18 years later.
Well, I mean, we know that Palestinian Authority and Hamas basically used how much of the money that was sent their way, or the resources and the money. I don't want to say 100% because we're never sure, but probably at least 90% of the money sent their way to build an infrastructure, to build an economy and develop a region for themselves. They just use it to build what we now know is 400 kilometers of tunnels. I mean, it keeps growing.
Actually, when I was in Israel, one of the security briefings we had indicated it was 900 miles of tunnels,
Oh,
which is about 1,200 kilometers.
you're kidding me. 900 miles. So,
No, it's actually 14. Well, whatever the conversion factor is,
yeah,
900 miles. At first,
900,
they said 300 miles and 600. Now they're saying 900
yeah,
miles of
900 miles,
tunnels.
about 1,350, 1,300, let's say conservative 1,300 kilometers. It's huge. There might even be tunnels going way further into Israel we're not even aware of that still exist.
Right, and we know that the most massive fortified border was a border that Israel had nothing to do with. It was the Egyptian border, but there were tunnels under that you could drive trucks through. So, I mean, the Gaza Strip, let's say it's 40 miles north to south. That means there's enough tunnels there to go all the way across the Gaza Strip and back over 20 times, 25 times. That's it. It's mind boggling.
So, how do you fix that?
I think that so here's a suggestion that I heard today, but I don't think it's ever going to happen politically because in Israel, there's an election this year. And so people want to get the situation kind of in a controllable situation. But the thing is, unless Israel steps in, immigrates everybody out of Gaza for a while and rebuilds it and takes complete total administration over it, we're just going to do this rinse, repeat, wash cycle that we've been doing all along. It's not going to change anything. And so one way to do it is to just completely obliterate it and turn it into an agricultural zone. But then everybody says, oh, you can't make those people leave. Listen, nobody cares about them. Egypt hasn't taken one Palestinian. Jordan, the king of Jordan, just said the other day, it's a non-negotiable issue. Syria won't take them because the experience has been Kuwait and Syria and Lebanon took them, and that was completely destabilizing to those governments. So this is a big problem. The solution is Israel has to take complete control of that area, and they have to completely annihilate the enemy. And then you see what the world reaction is with how, with the way Israel's conducted itself thus far. And it's kind of hard to sit here and say they need to do more than they've already done, but they need to do more than they've already done.
So we're not even going to discuss the two-state solution, although Trump is now. I mean,
He's talking about it a lot.
And but that two-state solution, again, to an extent, there was a two-state solution from 2005 to 2023.
There certainly was a living laboratory experiment of a two-state solution,
right?
And it didn't work. And so now we have, by the way, so we mentioned Mohammed bin Salman coming to the White House tomorrow. Front page of the New York Times this morning. I think this is entirely credible. I believe this is what's going on. And this is part of the problem. Big talk about Trump's firm company working on a big real estate deal with development with the Saudis in Riyadh.
Oh, like a Trump Tower. Yeah, I think I heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge development. And, we've got the problems with Qatar, with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. And then there's a pretty close relationship between Kushner and Mohammed bin Salman and the Saudi private or public investment fund, all the money they have. And so a lot of times Trump's treating this as just a big, beautiful real estate deal. And I don't think that this is getting to the heart of the problem, and Israel's still at risk, and it's manifesting itself elsewhere. So he has al-Shara there last week. Now, what are we reading in the Israeli intelligence press? I was just reading an intelligence report a few minutes ago before we started about Hezbollah's rebuilding itself in Lebanon.
Right.
So I was on the Lebanon border on Wednesday, November 5th.
Yeah, I was there. I was there in August.
Okay, at Metula.
Yeah.
You can see the UN things. And then that evening and the next day, Israel's just bombing Hezbollah installations and places where they're reconstituting themselves in southern Lebanon in view of where I was standing at Metula. It's not, and so that problem isn't over. I mean, so they've had tremendous success, unbelievable success at all of these different fronts that they faced, but it's not over.
No.
Lebanon and there's some intelligence indicating that Syria is facilitating the transfer of weapons components to Hezbollah to be assembled in Lebanon.
And then there's also, you and I were talking about that offline, they're using a maritime route, like, the ocean.
Correct.
So
yeah, so it's not gone away. And so Israel's still facing a big problem. And then there was a report, I have some friends that live over there, and they said in the Bethlehem area, there's been massive shutdowns of roads at times, including Route 60 from Jerusalem down towards Efrat and Hebron.
Really?
Yeah, off and on. But major routes within the Bethlehem area have been shut down. And then there was just a huge roll up, and I believe 50 people rounded up just within the last, 24 or 48 hours to break up a terror cell planning some rather massive things in Israel.
And did you hear or did you read anything about Netanyahu having to cancel a court appearance?
Okay, so that's that's always one of those little tidbits. It's like, well, why is this happening and what does it mean? So first of all, my first question would be, why is Netanyahu still under trial? Do they ever come to judges, this is a problem in the U.S. system. Judges used to make decisions, but I've been in counties. I had a civil case in a county before I retired a few years ago. The judge in that county had not tried a civil case. Now, he tried criminal cases, but civil cases between, business disputes and that type of thing. He had not tried a civil case in 17 years. He would farm some of them out to visiting judges, but he himself had not, and that's part of his job. And so here's Netanyahu. So when I was at the media summit in December 2022, I was asking questions when I was over at the Knesset. What's going on with this trial with Netanyahu, and how long is this thing going to go on? And it had already been going on for several years, and they told me it would go on another 5 or 6 years. So here we are 3 years later. It's still going on. So Netanyahu is supposed to testify in that case this week, Tuesday or Wednesday. He has to ask the court for permission. By the way, I'm sort of conducting a war on behalf of the people of this nation, and I have some things that I need to take care of. Can I be excused from testifying today? And when they're talking about Netanyahu testifying, it's like, this has been going on for like 2 years.
Right.
Listen, I talk a lot, okay? You know that. It's a kind of a standing joke.
I was not going to make any comment.
But I don't know anybody alive. Maybe I'll use an example. Okay, I had a case involving insurance agents. I represented a big, huge insurance company. And so the guy on the other side of the case had a right to take a deposition testimony from the broker and the insurance agent in this transaction. He had them on the record in a deposition for 60 5 hours. And I know, I had to sit there and listen to this. And, if you go to the judge to say, Judge, this is abusive, the judge would say, well, work it out. Don't come to me for a decision. Well, wait a minute, you're the judge. And then I told the lawyer, I said, listen, I don't know what your problem is. There's not, and this is no slam against my friends who might be insurance agents, there's not an insurance agent alive that I want to listen to for 65 hours on almost anything. And so this is the problem. So here's Netanyahu, week after week after week, he has to give like 2 days, 3 days of deposition and testimony on these ridiculous cases that they brought against them. The whole system is melting down. And then you have the case of that video that was released by the IDF lawyer. Did you read about that?
I'm not sure, but before we go there, the because we haven't, you haven't commented on that. The craziness of Netanyahu having to to still appear in court. I get that. I'm with you on that. But the reason he gave was national security. So
right, and so that's a very vague answer. We don't know what it means, and it could mean that the buzz that I was getting traveling around Israel, and everywhere we went, there were IDF soldiers. Everywhere, like Nova, there's IDF soldiers.
Oh yeah.
In Jerusalem, in the old city, there's IDF soldiers. You go to this important historical site, there's IDF soldiers because they're all being trained. But the vibe, the feel we were getting from them is we're going in someplace very big in a very big way very soon. So it could be Lebanon.
Yeah. I mean that's what I'm thinking. It could be Lebanon because of the rearming that we've heard about that is apparently going faster than we thought. And of course, we haven't even talked about Iran, who's threatening to shower Israel with 2,000 missiles now.
Well, I don't think that's funny because using Iran and shower in the same sentence right now is kind of humorous because
no pun intended.
They're out of water. They're ready to shut off the taps in Tehran, a city of like the size of New York in population, because they're out of water. I mean, they're saying that almost every reservoir you can see the bottom of the dams that led to the reservoir being created. It's a complete. They've taken too much groundwater out. They can't replenish it, and they could have at this point. They could have years of excess rain and not get back to where they need to be.
So what's going to happen? Where do they get their water?
Well, the report that was issued by the Middle East Forum did a study that was released on November 10th and said that there could be in excess of 18 million internal refugees because of lack of water in a country of 90 million people.
Whoa.
That's like 25% of the country. And so that this could lead to, they say this a lot. I mean, the whole country is at great risk in terms of the collapse of the regime. And I don't think we would cry if the Iranian regime collapsed. But then
no, but that would that would not solve the drought problem. It's not like the current regime is shutting the water from its own people. There's no water to be had. That's a problem that, regardless of the regime, is something that they can't control. It sounds like it.
Water is a very big issue in the Middle East. But this is interesting. Water is such a problem. But the greatest shower I've ever had was in Jerusalem because they don't have low flow shower heads. It's like going to a spa. It's like getting a fire hose washing over your skin in the shower in Jerusalem. And I'm like, next trip, I think I'm going to take a wrench and a replacement shower head, and maybe swap out the shower heads, because I would love to have that one in my. I can't get one like that in America.
You mean that you can't go to Home Depot and get the Jerusalem version?
No, that you know what? We ought to start a company, the Jerusalem Showerhead Experience.
There you go. Make
That
a lot
would,
of money.
yeah,
I know
we could.
my wife would buy one of those because she always complains wherever we go that the shower is worthless.
Well, so we're in Canada a couple of years ago, in Ontario. Ontario has 40% of the fresh surface water in the world is in the province of Ontario,
Wow.
and the government mandates them to have low flow shower heads. It's insane.
That's Canada for you. We don't.
That's right.
That's not on today's topic. But
Right.
so Iran. Look, it sounds like Iran has got their hands full with the water issue that they're not going to be able to really do much in the foreseeable future.
Well, there's also intelligence reports that they're building missiles like crazy, because the goal is to overwhelm Israel with missiles the next
Yeah.
time
Well,
in one fell swoop, which I think was the fear of Hezbollah, that Israel had about Hezbollah for a long time. And let's give Israel credit. I mean, what they did with Hezbollah was phenomenal. It was unprecedented in military history, but the enemy hasn't gone away. The ideology driving them has not gone away. And that's still a big problem.
Yeah, what they did with Hezbollah was amazing, but they did send them a message on pagers beforehand.
They did. The Operation Grim Beeper, as it was called, I think. But
now I touch on that in the beginning of the show, and I don't recall you saying anything about it. What if the U.S. ends up selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia? Is that going to weaken Israel?
uh, I think that the way Israel's approaching it is, yeah, go ahead. Their F-35s will never be as good as our F-35s, because we've sort of, I hate to use the term hacked. We've developed the F-35 beyond even what Americans thought they could do.
They
Modified it. And but that what they may get something out of Saudi Arabia in terms of normalization, which is a big deal for everybody.
Especially for Trump.
Trump needs to push that. Okay, you'll get the F-35s, normalization with Israel right now, make it big in public. I think that's the way Trump may go with that, unless he talks to Steve Witkoff, and then he'll get very weak.
And the Saudi Arabia is not opposed to normalization with Israel, so it's not like they're asking for a big stretch.
No, but they've always said that there needs to be a pathway to a two-state solution. Now, there's two things I think about that. Is one, I'm not convinced that that's what Mohammed bin Salman wants, is a two-state solution. That is what his father wants, and I personally believe that under the Saudi tribal culture, that they will be very accommodating to the wishes of the father until the father passes away. So he's 90. I think he's 90 now, and he's been in bad health for years. I don't know how much he can or can't do or is aware of. But so let's say this week that it's announced that King Salman has passed away. What's that going to change to all the dynamics in the Middle East? It's one of those things where things everything goes along until it changes, and when it changes, everything changes, and then there's like a whole series of dominoes that fall. So I think that's kind of a big deal. I think the crown prince will get around it, but that will be very upsetting to people in Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, Syria that want a two-state solution, because they don't want the people from Gaza coming there. They don't.
That's right.
Nobody. I think there was a flight of Palestinians from Gaza to South Africa, who's claiming Israel's committing genocide. So here, take some, and they wouldn't let the people off the plane. I mean, it's just
such
insane.
hypocrisy, and then we see the world taking sides with the wrong people. It's very, very frustrating. It's a good
Yeah.
thing that we have, we do have the truth of the Bible to tell us that, that basically, whatever the world is saying about Israel, about the situation, about the land, about the occupation, and all those things is absolutely not true. We are fighting a spiritual. It's a spiritual battle right now. It really is on so many levels. Uh,
Yeah.
you want to
Can
say
I
something?
just make one quick, because I
Yeah,
think this
yeah,
is the spiritual thing, because we have all this stuff on the right that we haven't talked about with, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, all this stuff. But there's a very good video done by a guy named Steve, the tour guide, that I was watching about the Nick Fuentes thing. And he played a clip of JD Vance at a TPUSA event at the University of Mississippi. And I'll just say, JD Vance was incredibly weak. It was appallingly weak in my estimation. And he was my senator, by the way, before he became vice president. But I think what you're seeing is you're seeing a fracturing of the MAGA movement, the conservative base of the United States, into a pro-Israel and a virulently anti-Israel, anti-Jew, anti-Semitic wing. And so, what I think Trump is doing, to be honest with you, is he's using Israel as sort of a way to try to appease the people on his right. Like, I'm going to show you that Israel won't push me around, which implies that Israel's been pushing everybody else around. That's a mistake. But the way they're approaching it is like, well, I'm not going to let Netanyahu tell me what to do. So I'm going to push for this two-state solution, at least shove it down the road, but keep the carrot there in front of
are you
everybody.
making a reference to when JD Vance mentioned not this president as opposed
That's
to?
correct. That's exactly what he said. Israel doesn't control this president. What he should have said is Israel doesn't control any president, but he gave them fuel, grist for their mill to hate Jews, that Israel controls everything.
Right. That's it's going with the Israel controlling everything. The lies that you can read in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. So that's basically that was not the best way. And I don't know if he thought it through or if it just it came out or if he meant it that way.
No, he look in part. I think he said it that way because he had to give something to the anti-Israel people on the right wing of the United States political spectrum. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
keep that in mind,
but
that
he kept the
Trump's
door.
going to play that tune, whether he believes it or not, to kind of keep his coalition together.
Yeah, but when he said not this president, he kept the door wide open for the Israel haters.
Oh,
And
sure. And he gave them, like, yeah, see, all the other presidents have been controlled by Israel.
yeah,
This thing is so crazy. I mean, they talk about Israel money and APAC. If you took like $100 billion compared to the national debt, it's not even like a hundredth of, I don't know, maybe it's not even a hundredth of 1% of the national debt. And this is controlling American politics. It doesn't make any sense. It's completely devoid from any factual basis.
it's going back to my definition of anti-Semitism, and the first word I use in it is irrational, irrational and satanic. And well, we haven't even talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and there's so
I'm sure.
much.
I'm sure she'll be around to talk about.
Yeah,
So
she might be switching sides by the time we talk again. Who knows?
what do you mean? Well, officially,
she's already on the other side, but
yeah, she might take the R off her door and put a D up or an
yeah,
I up
yeah,
or a
independent.
Q
Oh, a Q.
for Cutter.
Oh, I see. I see. Well, John, I know you've got a tight schedule today, so I don't want to push you too far. I think we've covered a lot, and friends, we try to keep you updated on what's going on. We we try to connect some dots, and sometimes we try and we're not able to connect dots because it's so irrational that you can only understand it from the perspective of being a spiritual battle, of being Satan's ploy to destroy everything that God is building. And when it comes to Israel, God loves the Jewish people. He calls them the apple of his eye in Zechariah 2:8, the chosen people. He has the Jewish people for his purpose to bless the world, and we have seen this so many ways. So he's not going to allow, because of his promises, for Israel to be destroyed. But Satan wants to make God wrong, wants to prove God wrong, and wants to stop or destroy God's program, alter it at the very least, to make God into a liar. So he's going to keep pushing. And that's where Christians like you and I, and like John, need to be vocal, need to continue. We need to continue educating ourselves. We need to continue speaking up, calling your city council, your senators, your whoever you need to call in the region you live in, or whoever you're connected to. Your voice needs to be heard, because right now the voice of the irrational voice of the enemy is a lot louder and a lot more and heard a lot more often and in a lot more places than the voice of conservatism and the voice of Judeo-Christian people. And that's the problem. We talk about it, but we don't do or say anything. So we hope that you can connect some of the dots through the conversations that we have with people like like John and I, but speak up. And also don't forget to continue to pray and ask God, how can I be a Schindler? How can I be a Corrie ten Boom? How can you be preparing yourself to reach out to your Jewish friends, Jewish neighbors? Because the time is here. The time is not coming. The time has been coming for me the last 25 years. It's here. It is here, and if we don't do something, it's going to overtake all of us. And when it comes to going after people especially from Islam, it's almost biblical in a sense that it's to the Jew first and also to the Greek. In other words, it's going to go against the Jews, and then eventually the Christians are next. So friends, we cannot be silent. John is not silent. I'm not silent. Please don't be silent. Speak up. Say something. Do something. Thanks for watching. John, thank you for coming on the show. Where can people find you?
At Fellowship Bible Chapel on YouTube, fbchapel.com, and Real FBC on Rumble.
All right. Now, as always, it will be in the description. John, I'll be talking to you before we know it. So have a good rest of your day, and thank you for what you're doing and for being such a good friend of my people. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to do it.
Be blessed.